First, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello, everyone. This is Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thank you very much for joining us. We're live streaming here out of the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom, as we do every day, every weekday anyway. And thanks for watching, however it is you're finding us. Today, though, we're talking about this weekend with the NASCAR Xfinity Series returning to Portland. A lot going on with that, a lot of storylines to talk about. But, of course, one of them is the return of Eric Johnson Jr. here. Back to his home stomping grounds. Here he is joining us right now. And Eric, thank you very much, for having time to talk to us. I got to ask, you're from La Center, is that right?
Yeah, La Center, Washington. I was born and raised in the Vancouver area, and little town of La Center, just north of there, is where I spent most of my life.
So, what's it like being back here? With the tour coming through Portland?
Yeah, it's really cool to just see NASCAR putting the spotlight up here in the Northwest. There's so many fans and supporters of the sport up here that I think go missed, and so it's fantastic to see NASCAR recognizing that and being back up here and just seeing that support, right, from all the locals. And it's a really unique opportunity being from here, having that, all my family and friends and our partners here. It's fantastic. It's something we look forward to every year, and I could not be more excited.
Does it change anything about it for you for the race, or is it still just business as usual when you get out there versus, having so many family and friends around?
Yeah, there's so much that goes into a race, right? It changes a lot of what's leading up to it, between just the off-track stuff with media obligations and different things with our partners here, as we have the opportunity to do some meet and greets with the cars and things, and that stuff we've been doing all week long, and it gives us some unique opportunities to have some booths at the track, sell some merchandise to those local fans. So that's taken a lot of time and effort to get that done, and can't thank everyone enough that's helped us with that. But for the on-track side of it, once you walk in on Friday, especially when that helmet slides on, you go down into the car, it's right back to your same rituals and just trying to get back into that focused headspace.
Is it, when you're out like this, going around from city to city when it comes to the tour, and, I'm sure you and the other drivers, do you hang out with them, or is it, rivalry on and off, that kind of thing?
A lot of the folks that I race with in the series we run in, I get close with them in a sense of, you want to know who's out there, and I think it plays to your advantage, just seeing how people think and interacting with them. And we're all, part of the same community, so we have a lot in common. So, as we're traveling around together, sure, we spend some time, but, when I think, as far as the people I spend the most time with, it's going to be our team, our crew, for our guys specifically, that we're spending the most time with. And especially when you walk in there and get out there on track, there's, no friends on the racetrack when it comes down to it.
Is there a lot? I mean, you guys can't talk to each other when you're out there, right? Are you on the same intercoms?
So we do have an intercom system built into the helmets that we actually use, because when we're in those cars, you're so you're just so restricted on movement and sight that we actually have what we call a spotter, who kind of tells us what's going on everywhere we can't see. So we have communications with the team and the crew members to tell them how the car is, so that we can plan for adjustments, things of that sort. But as far as other drivers, no, we don't have any communication with one another.
Okay, I was just curious how the talk went for something like that, if that were the case.
Yeah.
But talking about preparing, I can't help but look at what's behind you there. Can you tell me what is going on? I'm fascinated with what's in this room.
Yeah, so, a lot of folks get into racing in various different ways, and I think you've heard of the grassroots way, where people started old school out there at their local tracks on the hobbyist level and building cars out of their garage and taking them out there on a Friday night under the lights kind of thing. And for me, I came from a little bit more of an untraditional way, which is becoming more common as time goes on here. But I learned how to race using simulators. From like the age of 8 and 9, I was on simulators like the one sitting behind me here. You can see the whole chair set up and the steering wheel, and it's a whole rig. A lot goes into it, but it's become really realistic, and it's a great tool for drivers like myself who, you don't really, it's not like other sports where you can grab a ball and jump on the court and get some practice reps in. You don't get that experience, other than when you're at the NASCAR races. So for us to have something like this that I can jump on and turn some laps just to help build that muscle memory, get those reps like any other athlete would, it goes a long way. So it's quite the contraption back here as I've built it up over the years. Not quite what I had when I started at 8 or 9 years old.
I mean, that's really interesting. So you started out that way, and then you developed, is that where you developed your love of at least the idea of the sport?
Yeah, so I traveled with my dad and my grandma specifically. It was kind of our little trio, and the thing we did every year to go to NASCAR races. For us, the local one for a long time was down in Sonoma, California. We'd road trip down, and I was a fan of the sport long before I was ever a driver. I became obsessed with the driving aspect just through the simulators, which, I credit to those and how realistic they are. And, and that's where I grew that passion. But I never even touched a race car until 2019. And so to have a place where you can build that foundation so that when you get behind the wheel of a car for the first time, it's not so much to learn. Sure, it's a massive learning curve, as you can imagine with any sport. But at least having that foundation thanks to the simulator, I think that's something that's becoming more common, especially in the younger generation now.
That is really interesting, yeah, to go that way. So 2019 is when the first time you're driving that. What was that like, going from the simulator into the actual car?
It's hard to explain without actually throwing somebody out there. But, the best thing is you can imagine is with these simulators, a lot of the tracks now that are in those video games or sims, as we call it, they go out and they 3D scan them in real life. So every bump that's at the track is there in the game as you're practicing. And they have the steering wheels made to where now as you're in the game and you go over that bump, the steering wheel reacts in your hand and you feel it. So for somebody who's never been to a lot of these places, as I've just started out, right, it's become a massive tool just to learn the characteristics of these tracks as you go from one to another. They're all unique in their own way. And it just helps me build an idea. So it's not so new and not so much to learn the day I get there. So I at least have an idea of what I'm getting myself into, right? But when you actually go from the simulator to the car in real life, you can never replicate that G-force and sensation that you get in the car from side to side, front and back, that you get from the real speed and motions. So the speed takes some getting used to. But you don't really notice the speed factor when you're all going the same speed in one direction. It's more when something goes wrong and you're going the wrong direction is you start to realize, man, I think I'm going pretty quick here.
That's true. I suppose so. I didn't think about it from your perspective. Yeah, everybody's going the same.
Yeah.
Well, and to that extent, too, actually talking about that experience, but for people going to the track, now you said you've been a fan since 8 or 9 or even younger, probably, going to NASCAR. But being here in this area, not everybody grew up with that or watching it. So some people are pretty new to the sport. So for somebody going out there maybe for the first time to see a NASCAR event, since it is here in Portland, what would you say to them to expect from the experience?
I would urge anybody who's never been around or just had maybe just been a little curious of what NASCAR is. There's a lot of stereotypes out there. You hear this and that, but until you go and experience that for yourself and just pay attention to the sensations you feel. I mean, if you're up close to the track, the speed factor, right? Visually, those cars are there and then they're gone. And that's so bizarre to see. And then that rumble that you get in your chest, just feeling those V8s come flying down in a massive pack. It's so hard to describe to somebody until you drag them out there and then they look at you with just the biggest grin on their face. And it's something you'll never forget, no matter if you're a motorsports enthusiast or just somebody casually coming out. And, embrace the sport while you're there. It's, help the local guys if you get the chance, the vendors, the merchandise booths. We're all here trying to spread the NASCAR name out in the community. And if we could all help one another, that's something I definitely recommend if you get the chance to go check out those smaller booths, those smaller vendors, and really help those out that came out to support us this weekend.
Well, that's amazing. And like you said, this weekend, that's when people are going to get a chance to come out there and see that. And Eric, thank you for having some time to talk to us too, while you're there at home and taking a break here before this big race. But yeah, really appreciate it. And also, it looks like you had a couple of dogs make appearances as well. So yeah, always welcome.
Yeah, the dogs are they're essential here as we're moving all over the place, constantly going. They're my little support system. So I got Rocky, our blue heeler, Winston, the golden doodle. They're kind of my mascots, but yeah, they like to jump in. But no, I appreciate you having us on. I'm extremely lucky to do what I get to do, and it's just it's an honor to be racing our local to our hometown and seeing all the familiar faces out there, and hopefully we see more this weekend.
All right, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, and for everybody watching too, we're going to continue on here and really appreciate, like I said, everybody who's joining. So we are live streaming here from the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom, and this is something that we do here every weekday. So I just want to remind you of that if you are watching, and or if you're just joining in. And we have some more to talk about though with NASCAR Xfinity Series being here in Portland this weekend at PIR, because we just spoke to Eric Johnson Jr. They're from the center, but I also spoke to Justin Allgaier about his experiences in coming here, and he's been bouncing around between 2 and 3, depending on when you're watching in the rankings. So he's won it before, and just to get his perspective on it, somebody who's been in it just a little bit longer there than Eric, and but also bringing that experience here to the city for everybody to watch. So I'm going to pull that up right now, and for you, right now, I mean, already a huge last year. This year, doing great. And how does it feel right now going into this section of the season?
Oh, it feels really good. The last month and a half has been a little bit of a struggle, but I feel like, coming off of last season and the success that we had, and then just the way we fired off at the beginning of the year, and even this last stretch of races that haven't been great, we've had speed, we just don't have the finishes to show for it. So, it's if you ever were going to kind of script how you would want your races to go, the beginning of the season was really just that, and really proud of the effort that this team has put in. And whether it's myself or our company, we've won a ton of races this year, and those are things that really, as a driver, you can only hope for, and this team has done an amazing job around me.
Well, when you get into something like that, and just the grind of, I mean, that's a lot of races. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of on the road, a lot of practice. Like, what do you do for yourself just to prepare yourself and keep yourself going this far into the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of things, right? Number one, just being a student of the sport. That's the one thing that's kind of crazy about the sport of auto racing is even though it's the same, and a lot of the tracks that we race at, we race over time, year after year, they're still changing and they're still evolving. And I feel like there's really not any particular thing that we can pinpoint as to why they change. But, as technology changes, as drivers get more resources, I mean, whether it be simulator or being able to go back and review video and footage of some of the previous races, those are all just things that kind of put us in the position that we're in. And so, for me, my way of getting out and kind of recentering myself, I guess, has been running here, especially here lately. Just getting out on the open road. I've got a couple of buddies that I run with pretty regularly, and just clearing your head, right? Staying healthy, right? Staying fit, staying prepared to be in the race car. But just being able to get those miles in and kind of be out in the middle of nowhere and clear your head. And then my oldest daughter plays travel softball, so when I'm not at a racetrack, I'm usually at a ball diamond, watching her practice or play. So, it's really fun to kind of see her have that competitive nature that I do, and really enjoy what she's doing with her teammates.
That's pretty cool. So seeing that reflected right there, just the wanting to win and that competitive aspect.
Yeah, and it's cool because she's learning life lessons is just like I did whenever I was her age, and in racing, it's just a different way of doing it. So it's pretty awesome.
Well, coming up here for Portland, coming back, for you, what is it like coming into this city? Yeah, because I mean, I know you go travel all over the place, but coming back into Portland, how's that feel?
Well, Portland, number one, the fans that come to the racetrack are truly awesome. I mean, it's one of the most kind of one-on-one kind of intimate settings that we go to as far as the sport of NASCAR goes, is having fans and the closeness of where they're at and being a part of what we're doing. But I also think that, the lack of Northwest racing for the sport of NASCAR, especially Xfinity or Cup or trucks, I know the trucks used to come out there many years ago a lot. And we built this contingent of NASCAR fans, and then we didn't come back for a number of years. And so, that core NASCAR fan still is they love the sport and they still support us, even when we're not racing in the Northwest, but especially when we come out to the Northwest, and they've kind of raised their kids and to be NASCAR fans. And so, I think from that standpoint, it's one of the most fun races that we go to. There are challenges with it, right? Getting from the southeast to the Northwest, it's not a short trip. You got a lot going on in there, but at the same time, I think that the teams have all had a lot of fun with it. The track has done an amazing job of really kind of welcoming us with open arms, and the racing's been great. I think that sometimes that gets lost in a little bit in how great the racing is at Portland, but it's truly been a lot of fun to line up with my competitors, every time we've come out, and we've been lucky and had a threat to win, every one of the events there, and I would love nothing more than to get a victory there and kind of cap off what success we've had over the last number of years.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Just that just being something for all the fans here in the Northwest to go to rally around, but then to get to have that kind of a closer experience really is part of what PIR is, I think. Last question here, when you do come to town for this, do you ever get a chance to get out and go around the city, or is it pretty much just concentrate on work?
Yes and yes. I do get the opportunity to do that. But it's actually because of work that lets me do that. So, we typically run a Brent Professional Agriculture car at the race there in Portland, and they bring a lot of customers that are from not only the Portland area, but from all of the Northwest, and they're able to come out and to be a part of it, and so I think this year we're probably at 100 or so guests that are coming to the racetrack just with Brant. And so we typically go into the city, and they'll do like a dinner on race weekend, and be able to kind of make a weekend out of it, right, for the customers that they have that are a part of it, and so that's been really special for me because sometimes you get you get a little bit close-minded at racetracks because we go in early in the morning, we go out late at night. But Portland's allowed us to kind of get out and explore a little bit. And the last couple of years, I've gone out and kind of driven around and seen different parts of kind of the surrounding areas, and it's been a lot of fun. And it really is so different geographically than what we have out here on the East Coast, that it's fun to kind of see something new and learn and get to see the culture and see what's going on in the different parts of town and to be a part of it. So really excited to get back out there, and like I said, as much fun as we have, it would only be fitting to want to cap it off with a win and kind of be a part of it.
Well, best of luck with that to bring that home, and congratulations on all the success. And yeah, looking forward to seeing you here in Portland. Thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, so there we go. Both Justin and Eric, big thanks to them for joining us here for Fox 12 Now for the Xfinity Series, NASCAR Series coming up this weekend. And thanks, everybody, for, again, being a part of Fox 12 Now. We have lots of other segments for you to check out. Download that Fox 12 Oregon app. They're on there. We're here live every weekday, 1 o'clock, right after the noon news. You can be a part of this. And if you ever have an idea for a segment, feel free to send me an email. fox12now@kptv.com, fox12now@kptv.com. I can't guarantee every time we can, but we would certainly love to hear from you. Or if you have questions or maybe a request, for a deeper dive with one of our reporters, one of our investigative reporters, like we had Ezra Kaplan on yesterday for one of those. So that's something that we can arrange right here. But either way, we appreciate you being a part of this. And if there's ever breaking news between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m., I will also be here for that. But for now, we'll sign off. Thanks again. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.